It's a beautiful, sunny, quite toasty day today in Pakistan. We've made it to the country's capital and we're kicking it off in the slightly busier, older and more chaotic part of the city. This area is called Rawalpindi, known by the locals as just Pindi, and together with Islamabad they're kind of like twin cities. There's no actual geographical separation between them, but there is a big difference in terms of the general environment. There's actually quite a long story about how I ended up here and the trek that it took, but we'll do that a bit later on. I'll also update you about the Afghan visa process. It's actually all sorted now, so I'll talk you through how that happened, as well as the border scenario and the next leg of the trip. But for now, we're exploring all this. Plonked seemingly randomly amidst all of the mayhem are really cool historical structures like this. This is Lal Haveli. Haveli just means like townhouse, town mansion type thing. It was built in 1927. It's a really cool mixture of Mughal, European, Kashmiri architecture, and yeah, I mean, it's just stood here in the middle of a chaotic street. So Pindi itself is in an area that's been inhabited one way or another for thousands of years, but was actually incorporated as a municipality 150 years ago in the 1860s, at which point the population was less than 20,000. It's now 5 or 6 million, so a lot's changed in that time. One of those changes is the demographic, not just the quantity of people, but the religion they believe in, because this used to be home to quite a lot of Hindus and Sikhs before at one point or another they moved to India, and so now it's just a Muslim majority. And one of the cool things about Pindi is as you walk around you see all sorts of reminders of a different past, like these Hindu temples dotted around the place. They're almost all abandoned. I think there's one still in use, and there are still a few thousand Hindus in the capital according to census information, but not as many as there used to be. This one behind me is the Sri Ganesh temple, and impressively has managed to be overgrown at the very top. And as a true sign of the times and how stuff has changed, right next to it is this quite swanky looking, quite new looking mosque. Here's another example of one of these hidden temple streets. This is the Sri Raghunath temple complex. As far as I can tell, just kind of hidden in this alleyway, still standing, but doesn't really look like there's any way to get in. Just got some barbed wire, trees and electrical wires stopping you getting in, and then the rest of the city's just been kind of built around it. Nowadays they're just kind of here as decoration. I suppose you can see them poking up between narrow alleyways around the place, but not much more than that. This green building behind me is another cool kind of historical artifact, I suppose you'd call it. No idea what it is or what it was, but maybe links to a colonial past. Anyway, it's green, it's got stained glass, and it looks pretty cool. Here we've got another of the old Hindu temples. This is Sri Hanuman temple. Hanuman in Hinduism was the half-human, half-god monkey who was a symbol of strength, devotion and selflessness. And here's his temple just kind of now amongst some residential space. Anyway, as well as getting lost in the, let's call it, energy of Pindi, you can also just go temple spotting for the day, and that's pretty cool as well. I want to have a go on one of these motorbike taxis. I think I've decided that motorbikes are my favourite way to get around cities like this. I did it a lot in Egypt as well, in busy Cairo, and it was brilliant. And it's nice here. Firstly, it cost me 100 rupees for a 10-minute ride. That is the equivalent of 27 pence. And the breeze is exceptional, especially because you've not got to wear a helmet. So that's pretty nice, especially on a hot day like this. And as a result, I have retreated here to Liaquat Park. Apart from being lovely and shaded and quite a quiet area, you might think this is a normal, unassuming park, but it has actually hosted two very big political assassinations. The first one was in 1951. Liaquat Ali Khan, the first ever Prime Minister of Pakistan, was assassinated here. And then 56 years later, 2007, Benazir Bhutto, the first ever female Prime Minister of Pakistan, was assassinated here after she'd finished being Prime Minister. She was shot, and then there was a suicide bomb that went off. And in both cases, interestingly, as far as I can tell, they were never solved. They never knew, did either of them So while it does offer a bit of respite from the noise, the surrounding area in Pindi, it does have a bit of a dark past. Two significant events in Pakistani political history. Right then, one more stop before we go into the other side, into Islamabad itself. Alright, so the dot on the map has brought me here. This is supposed to be the last, maybe one of the last two functional Hindu temples, and I mean, I'm just in the middle of the maze that is Pindi. Yeah, no sign of it anywhere. I don't mind the random roam around the maze, the streets of this area, but either that Hindu temple is no longer functional and they're down to 0, or I'm lost, and that the second option is likelier. Anyway, yeah, that's Pindi. Some cool stuff, some old stuff, and a lot of mayhem, but a pretty cool spot nonetheless. Onwards. So this feels like a pretty good time to revisit the Peshawar side mission that I went on to get my visa for Afghanistan. It is, by the way, the easiest place in the whole world to get your Afghanistan visa. The journey there from Islamabad only takes a couple of hours. It's clean, it's comfy, and Peshawar itself, as you'll see shortly, turns out to be a really cool stop actually. It's not just a place you go to and from to get the visa sorted. It was a pretty cool side quest. So when you get to the consulate, it's a really private process, very restricted, as you can probably imagine. So apart from this little bit of street, that's all you're going to see, because you have to go into this little side office, drop off your phone and anything that could possibly take pictures or record stuff. But you're only in there for a maximum of 5 minutes. It's actually really easy.
No, thank you.
I make that about 20 minutes from dropping off my phone, walking a couple of 100 metres down the street, going in, getting a visa, coming out and getting my phone again. That is one of the fastest visa processes I've ever experienced. Job done. And here we have it. Afghanistan visa. I think I'm supposed to cover some stuff up, but I don't really know what. But there we go, we've got it. And now I've got a bit more spare time. I don't really know what happens in Peshawar. It seems a little bit manic, so I'm gonna get a taco and have a bit of a meander and see what's what. Alright, this seems like it could get pretty intense. I think the word meander could be a bit misleading there. That sounds nice and relaxing, doesn't it? Let's have a look anyway. I got myself plonked somewhere in the middle of the town. Don't really know a lot about it, but I've got a few dots on the map to have a look at. Let's give ourselves an hour or so, shall we? And then we go back to Islamabad. So just passed through what is apparently, according to the lettering, Kabli Gate into this area. My God, this is noisy. Just aimlessly changing direction, having a mooch around. This is Peshawar. Where have I ended up here? Well, in some shade at least. It is actually quite hot. Very different to not long ago when we were in the mountains in negative temperatures.
I actually quite liked Peshawar. It did get a bit manic, but there were quieter bits like this as well. These alleyways were cool to walk around. You get a lot of curious looks, especially from the local kids. And if you stick around for too long in Peshawar, you do end up with a police escort. It's not a normal place to come and visit. I'm not sure if that's for security purposes, but they don't seem to like Westerners roaming free. Or maybe it's because it's quite easy to end up, well,
lost is how I would describe my location. I found the jewellery section though. Look at all this gold. And aside from all the chaotic wiring, some of these building facades look pretty cool actually. Admittedly getting some very curious looks, but it's definitely an interesting side quest, isn't it? There is nothing I hate more in this world than the smell of fish, and it is potent here. This is the Sir Cunningham Clock Tower, and as written, was built in 1900. This bloke just caught me taking a picture of something and said, "Let me show you something," and wants to take me up to the top of this mosque. I think I've reached the top. There are no more stairs. He said he can't come up himself, he's got a leg problem, so let's have a look. I think there might have been stairs up here once upon a time, but not now.
When you descend back to ground level, there are actually places to sit and chill and people watch, which I always quite like to do, but it doesn't last very long in a city like Peshawar, because you turn one corner and you're back in this noise, atmosphere, people. It does get a bit mental.
We are well and truly in the source, right in the thick of it. Maybe you're starting to see why the dots on a map technique has failed miserably. A lot of people and noise and a total loss of any kind of sense of direction. Anyway, yeah, back to the clock tower. Now I can breathe for a sec. Built in 1900 in commemoration of Her Majesty the Queen Empress Victoria, and then named after the commissioner of Peshawar at the time, a chap called Cunningham. There are actually a load of really cool buildings when you get a chance to look up and see through the chaos. Like this one, no idea what it actually is, but looks old-fashioned, wooden and pretty cool. So as you might remember, the original plan was to come here and then cross the border from here to Afghanistan, get the visa, go straight across, because we're not that far away from the border now, but it is still closed. I mentioned it was closed before. It is still closed and has been for a few weeks, so we can't go that way. There's a lot of conflict at the border. There's been a lot of shootings, I think. A lot's been kicking off, so that way is not possible. So back at the bus station now to go back to Islamabad. To summarise the visit to Peshawar: good news, got the visa, mission accomplished. Bad news, cannot cross the border, need to find another way. Back we go. So to clarify, now that I'm in Islamabad itself, technically here and Pindi are not the same place. They are individual, they're separate cities, but they are often considered as one unit because together they make up the fourth biggest metropolitan area of the country. They're kind of like Grimsby and Cleethorpes. There's no real distinction between them, one just becomes the other, but there are very big differences in characteristics, like as you may already notice with Islamabad. It's a lot more spacious, it's a much newer city. We'll get into the city shortly, but I am quite enjoying decompressing from places like Peshawar and Pindi in this enormous green space. And up here we have the onion domes of F9 Park. These domes and the surrounding area actually seem to be quite far past their best, and I don't really know what they represent, but from here you can see all around the city where it spreads to. This park is really big and completely empty. Not complaining, it's quite nice, but this is the capital city, remember. I feel like I've recharged. Let's go into the built up bit and have a look. And straight away, here we have the pièce de résistance of Islamabad, the Faisal Mosque. This behind me is one of the biggest mosques in the world. It's also totally unique because of its shape, its design. There are no arches, there are no domes like almost every other mosque in the world. It's one of a kind, this. It's called the Faisal Mosque because that's the name of the King of Saudi, who was a big collaborator on this, and he funded it as well. It was built nearly 40 years ago in 1986 for a cost of 100 million quid, and this is what you get for your money. There was a big international competition to decide who designs this. Loads of countries, loads of the best architects were involved. It was won by a Turkish bloke who got the job based on his design that was nothing like anyone else's. Let's go in and have a look. You deposit your footwear as normal, you get a number so you can pick them up later, and even though you're outside you still walk around without shoes on. You can't actually go in this mosque, or at least you couldn't when I was visiting, but even from the outside it's an incredibly cool thing to explore. There are different levels, even the stairs to get between the levels were a really cool design. People are just wandering around, chilling. As always with mosques, they're quiet, they're relaxing atmospheres. There are places like this for ablution. This is where people clean themselves before they go in to pray, but like I said, you can't actually go inside. Again, for one of the coolest mosques in the world, in the capital city of Pakistan, impressively unbusy, unchaotic, if that's the right word. Anyway, back on the bike, I really do enjoy getting around the city on this mode of transport.
But there you go, that's Faisal Mosque, one of the coolest mosques you'll ever see. Onwards.
According to this clock, we've got about an hour and 40 minutes to go. Nearly there. Yeah, feeling it today. Very, very dry. I am the thirstiest man in the world. Not long to go. I'm now walking into what is known as the blue area of the city, which is arguably the most developed bit. Some of it is still being developed. Something to note about Islamabad is it was only built in 1967, and it was built deliberately to replace Karachi as the capital of Pakistan. So when England won the Footy World Cup, this city didn't even exist. That KFC is looking awfully tempting right about now. And because it was such a blank canvas before they built it, it meant they could do it in a really logical way, which they have. So everything is numbered by sector and block. They've got letters from, I think, D to I, so you might be in block D3 of the city or F6. The park we went to earlier was in F9, that's where it got its name from. So at least in terms of urban planning, it is a really, really organised place. It's kind of the city that I think James May would design if he had the chance. And this blue area that we're in, the developed bit, has a couple of tall, shiny things. It has a big, fancy looking mall, which I am definitely going back to when it's time for Scran. It's pretty nice inside, but I have got to say, I've been walking down this way for 45 minutes, an hour. I have seen nothing of any interest whatsoever. This is what it looks like walking down here. It's really not quite as, I don't know, there is not a lot happening. What a polar opposite to Rawalpindi earlier, where there's too much going on. Now there's not an awful lot. Maybe it's just not quite finished yet. There's a mosque over here in the middle of being built. Or I'm just a bit mardy because I'm hungry and thirsty. Or it's just not that interesting. It could be that as well. Anyway, this is going to be my last video in Pakistan, so we might as well talk about the mountains, because I did spend quite a bit of time there, but I didn't get to most of the places I wanted to go to. I was in Karimabad and Aliabad, and I enjoyed that, as you might have seen in the last video. But I was going to go to Skardu in the east, a famously nice part of the region. But the road there is one of the worst in the world for a few reasons. And one of those reasons is exactly what stopped me going there, which was this landslide, which blocked the road for a couple of days, so I couldn't go east. I was already in Gilgit, so I decided I was going to fly here to Islamabad. That flight was cancelled, and so were all following flights for the whole week. So I had to endure the worst bus journey of my life. It was 18 hours of this really old, clapped out blue bus, zero comfort. It was night time, it was on some sketchy roads, it was bumpy, I felt sick, couldn't fall asleep. Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. I tried everything I could to not use that option, and I had to anyway. But eventually got here to Islamabad. And so I've ended up covering about 750 miles, eventful miles I'll say, in Pakistan. And now we're about done. It's Afghanistan next. It's defo been an interesting stint, and the Hunza Valley, I mean, it was spectacular, wasn't it? If you've not seen the last video, go and have a look. Magical place. Anyway, not done just yet, because I need to eat or I'm gonna die. And it's a bit cloudy, so you can't tell, but the sun's going down. We've got about 25 minutes to go. And I really, really fancy a burger. Is that bad? Let's see what they've got in this mall, shall we? Sometimes all you need in life is a nice, clean, spacious, air-conditioned mall and some Western food. Let's see what they've got. Something you'll notice when we get up here, the food court area, is it's about 15 minutes until iftar when everyone can eat. So people they've already got tables, they've already got their food, but they're not touching it, they're waiting. And if you've seen other videos so far, you'll know this is the first time anyone's actually been fasting, as in the general public. Even in northern Pakistan, part of the same Islamic Republic, people were not fasting. They were doing the rest of Ramadan, but not the food part. And what you're going to see in a few minutes' time is a call to prayer, and then everyone tucking in to their scran. Alright, well the call to prayer was dead quiet, but it did happen, and now everyone can tuck in. It is scran time. I'm getting one of these Ramadan burger deals.
So, being totally honest, this was probably not a very good burger. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was my first one in a long time. I don't want to come across too Western and uncultured, but I was absolutely buzzing to eat something as comforting as this, so all good for me. The chips were really floppy and not especially cooked, but they did the job, and it came with some chicken wings as well, which were little, but yeah, really good. But yeah, basically just comforting food after a few days of travelling from the north to this bit of Pakistan. This is the burger itself. It's actually a chicken patty, but looks a bit like you would see a beef burger. Obviously scoffed the whole thing. I was starving today. There was a lot of moving around, so I was quite happy to finally get something to eat. It also came with some B-Tech Coke, which delivered surprisingly, and meat on fire in the background. Does sound like something you'd get checked out at the doctor, innit? But the Coke was good. I also treated myself to an ice cream and found somewhere to get coffee. Coffee during Ramadan is kind of a rare thing to drink, because in the morning when you're eating at 3 a.m. it seems too early, and in the evening it seems too late. So again, ultimate comfort stop this. Big fan.
And for one last time in Pakistan, we're off on a motorbike. This really is the best way to travel around Islamabad and maybe other bits of Pakistan as well. It's brilliant, and the roads are a lot safer and quieter than you might think. But anyway, we're now back in the hotel and I have been shopping. I have Afghanified myself a little bit, ready for the next step of the adventure. China done, Pakistan done. Afghanistan, let's see what happens, shall we? Cheers chaps, in a bit.